Hi everyone, welcome back to Accounting Excel. This is going to be a short video about how the if function works in Microsoft Excel. So to illustrate this, I've come up with kind of a scenario with a rental property type situation where we have a couple different rental properties and we have some rental income, we have some expenses. And I'm just going to illustrate some different things you can do with the if function, and I'm going to add a couple different scenarios and kind of illustrate a little bit further how you can use it. So the first thing that I kind of want to show is here we have some transactions and we have some debits and credits. Maybe this came out of your accounting system, or maybe it came out of the bank statement or something like that, but you have a list here and you want to kind of manipulate this a little bit for whatever reason so that you can do some different things. But one of the first things that you can do with an if function is you can it kind of performs a logic test that gives you one value if it's true and then another value if it's false. So it looks to see if there's a criteria, and if it meets that criteria, it says that it's true, and so it returns one value, and if it's false, it'll return another value. So to illustrate that, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say what I want to do in this column here is I want to just make it so that it shows my debits and credits. Instead of debit and credit, I'm going to show them as positives and negatives. So just real quick, if I want to do that, I want to go if, you can see here the first step is the logic test. So what I want to do is say if this debit is positive, so I'm going to say greater than 0, then I want it to show that number. So select D4 to show 70905. And then if it doesn't meet that criteria, I want it to show what's in this column, and that's going to be a negative number. And the reason that I'm doing that is so that when I drag this formula down, you'll see here in a second, when I drag this formula down to the next cell, it's doing the same test, and it's looking to see if this is positive or greater than 0. But since it's 0, it's going and saying, well, that's false. So it's doing negative E5. So it's looking to this number and pulling in the negative. And we can go ahead and drag that down, just see what the outcome is. So it just shows all of my debits as positive and all of my credits as negative. So another thing you can do is use it, you can embed an AND function in there. And what an AND function does is it makes you have to meet more than one criteria or condition to make the if function true. So to illustrate that, what I want to do here is I want to look and see, well, of this information here, what are my deposits to cash? So what I want it to do is I want it to look over here at all of my debits, and I want to look at all the debits to cash. So that's more than one criteria. So to do that, I'm going to go if, and the first step is to embed the AND function. So I'm going to go and then I'm going to look over here to see what my account is. So my account's cash, so I want to say B4, if that equals cash, and if D4 is greater than 0, then I want it to put D4. And another way that I think about this in my head is I say, if this is true, then put this number, then put this amount in there. Otherwise, put what's false. And so that's kind of how I think about it in my head, is how I logically walk through the if function. And so if it's not true, we're just going to put nothing in this column. So to put nothing in that column, what you do in Excel is just put double quotations, and that means basically if it's false, don't do anything. So we'll end that, and so our function's done there. So you can see on the first one, it puts in 70905 because it's a positive debit to cash. So that's what we wanted to see. So if you drag this down, you'll be able to see okay, well, this was a deposit to cash, 1,077.45, and this was a deposit to cash, 305.10. But the rest of them didn't meet the criteria, so it didn't populate anything. So that's kind of how you use the AND function inside of an if function. The second thing you can do is you can insert an OR function. So what an OR function does is it allows you to be able to extract information with more than one criteria. So for instance, if we wanted to just look at utilities expense or we wanted to look at insurance expense and we wanted to look at just the two of these, we would be able to do that by inserting the OR function. So and it's very similar to the AND function, how you insert it. So let's just go ahead and illustrate that real quick. So start with equals, if, and then OR. So then we're going to put our first test in there. So if our account B4 equals utilities expense, or B4 equals insurance expense, and that completes the OR function there. Then we're going to put in the amount. Otherwise, we're going to put in nothing. So you can see there it put nothing because this is not insurance expense and it's not utilities expense. But we can go ahead and drag this formula down for the rest of these. And so you can see here, every time it sees utilities expense or insurance expense, it's pulling that information into the cell. And there's another way you can do this too. So what I did here is I typed in the actual utilities expense. But what you can do instead of that is if you have a list of what you want it to look up to, you can just go ahead and click the cell where that information is. So I just selected utilities expense there. And in this case, I want to push F4 to lock that in so when I drag that formula down, it doesn't move. And then you can do the same thing here with the insurance expense. Push it F4 so that doesn't move. And then I can drag that down and it gives me the same result. Okay, so the next thing that I want to do is we're gonna nest an if. This is what nesting ifs is allows you to put two different if functions in, and it gives you a different outcome for different criteria. So say that we want to say that we want to look and see, okay, look at our deposits and say anything that's over $1,000 is a high-end property, but anything over $500 is an okay property, and then anything less than $500 we don't want to look at it. So it's a little bit more complicated, and I'm going to kind of build upon the AND function a little bit too. But the way that we want to do that is we say if, then we're going to go and we're going to say our first criteria is the amount is greater than 1,000. And we need to look at just the deposits too, so we need to look at the account to make sure that it's an actual deposit. So that's why we're using the AND function. So we select the account, and that needs to equal cash. So that completes our AND function. So it's going to be, so if it's over $1,000 and it's a deposit to cash, it's going to be a high-end property. Okay. So if it doesn't meet that criteria, what it's going to do is it's going to come to the next criteria. And that's where we're going to put our second if function in. So if this amount is greater than 500, I'm sorry, I need to put the AND function in because we're gonna look at two different criteria. So if and this amount is greater than 500 and this account equals cash, that completes our AND function there. Then we're going to say that that is an OK property. Otherwise, we're going to put nothing there. And then we just need to complete our parentheses here. So everything is in line. Let's go ahead and hit enter. So you can see the first one, it's looking and saying, okay, this one, you know, it doesn't meet the first criteria. Okay, so it's not a high-end property. So then it's looking to the second criteria, and this is the second criteria for the first if function. So the second criteria is looking and saying if it's over $500 and it's a deposited cash, then it's an OK property. And so that's why for this cell it's putting an OK property. Now if it doesn't meet this $500 criteria, then it's going to put nothing. And then we can go ahead and drag this down. So you look here, we have an OK property and we have a high-end property, two different outcomes. It's above 500, but it's less than 1,000, so that's an OK property. And this is above 1,000, so that's a high-end property. Just like what we did before, if you have a list, you can also insert that that cell into here. Instead of saying high-end property, you could just select that cell. And instead of OK property, you could just select that cell. Go ahead and hit F4 to lock those in this situation. And drag those down. You get the same result. So hopefully you thought this was helpful, and if you think it was, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. And there's a lot of other helpful videos out there that I've put out. Hopefully they're helpful. If you have any comments or you want to see anything specific or you have any specific questions, go ahead and leave something in the comment section. And we'll see you all next time.